There are so many signals right now from the ISM manufacturing, from what we heard yesterday with the ADP report. Are things getting worse? Are we headed towards a recession?
I think things are getting worse. I think markets can sell off further from here, and I think we'll also start to see credit spreads widen out. So I do think that the risks are elevated. And if you think about, what we've seen pretty much for most of 2019, it was a pretty stable environment where you didn't have a lot of volatility in the economic data points, and the Fed was cutting rates, and the markets cheered. We saw the markets going up almost, stocks go up almost 20%. And if you had said a year ago that, we'd be in an environment where unemployment would be at a 50-year low, wages would be rising, home prices would be rising, and the Fed would be cutting rates, I would say that's just absolutely crazy. That's not how the economy works. But that's exactly what we've seen so far in 2019. And now that narrative is being challenged, right? It started with yield curves inverting at the end of August, beginning of September. Repo markets beginning to misbehave. Now we're seeing cracks in ISM. We're seeing cracks in some of the leading edges of labor markets. And it suggests that, at this point in the cycle, the question isn't if there will be a recession, it's when will there be a recession,
right? Is it going to be next year? Is it going to be 2 years from now? Is it going to be 5 years from now?
I think the countdown timer started from the time that the most predictive part of the yield curve, the 10-year to 2-year Treasury inverts. You have an average of 20 months before a recession. So the question becomes, is it going to be sooner or later, before or after 20 months? Because 20 is the average. I would think with confrontational trade policy and some of the cracks that we're beginning to see in the economy, it's going to be sooner. I don't know if that's 6 months from now or 12 months from now, but regardless, we're on the clock.
Hey, Mike, we've made a lot of the 850-plus point decline that we've seen just over the last two sessions. Yep. But when you look at the averages, you're still looking at the S&P not far from 2,900. And that makes me feel like, OK, maybe it's not as much of a bargain as people are thinking.
Right. I mean, the S&P is like 4.5% from its highs. It just has struggled to make any headway. I think what the past couple of days have told us is August was not just a fleeting kind of late cycle freak out by the market. This is the storyline. And if you actually have any conviction that we're going to avert recession in the next year or so, then you would say this is probably is going to pass. This storm is going to pass. I think the market lost its bet that you could get a Fed rate cut without seeing the numbers get a lot worse. Right. So that's clear. But in 2 days, the market has also gotten pretty oversold and kind of, pervasively
what if the ISM
cut
is 60
back
today? What if ISM is 60?
Better than expected.
Yeah, I mean, yields will go up, and that would let stocks go up. That would be my expectation. Now, 60
is that quick. I know.
So, because keep in mind, it's a survey, and all the mood stuff that Steve's talking about is definitely on the downside.
So, what if it's below 50 for non-services?
For services, below 50 is a problem.
That would be.
Was it supposed to be? Did I say 53 or 54? We're looking for.
That's a great question because I think the risk is to the downside when you ask it that way, and I think about the answer. If it's on the upside, people are like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's great, but I'm not.
But I'm not trading necessarily.
Downside would confirm the negative.
I don't know.
Although, to Mike's point, this is a confidence survey.
If it was WBC, the consumer's still good, and we got all freaked out over manufacturing, which is a small part of the overall picture anyway. The other thing, Steve, you said chicken and egg. If the likelihood of recession increases, Trump's chances go down significantly, which brings in, again,
another issue.
Right. Yeah.
Joe, I got to tell you something else, though. We're back at 8 o'clock with another piece of this, but the president's not doing well among the public with his signature economic issues. And I have to think that you could have higher levels of optimism if there was better belief in immigration and trade.
Yeah.
Trade, manufacturing.
Not doing well. And you saw, you were out the day we reported, his economic approval numbers, the worst of his presidency right now.
Yeah. And the trade, I think, will continue to linger, right? This is a big issue, and it invites a lot of unintended consequences. And I think that's what we've started to see through manufacturing, and now where it's beginning to spread to the leading edges of labor markets, where you have things like your average hourly work week is beginning to roll over. The number of job openings is rolling over. And I think all these things are sort of related to trade. And I think as long as trade lingers, then we're going to have to worry about the downside to a lot of these economic.
And your gamble is that the trade issue continues to linger.
I think it continues to linger. And I think one of the things that is probably missed by a lot of people is it's no longer just isolated between the U.S. and China, right? It's also now spread to Japan, South Korea, emerging market currencies all around the world. And there are elements of populism or regionalism or inward thinking that are actually, I think, driving this entire global trade agenda, right? It's that we've seen it all throughout the world where sort of free trade is kind of under attack.
Mike, very quickly set us up for today. We're watching ISM.
Watching ISM, I don't know that anyone's going to be a hero ahead of the jobs number tomorrow and sort of decide that the market has turned decisively. But as I said, after 2 days, pretty oversold if you just look at underneath the market surface of the indexes. So the makings are there if this is just kind of in our heads.